Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first, correspondence. Ms. Santos?
Yes, all our correspondence was via email except for on 10/20/21, one phone call from Sheila Lieber regarding what is sign-in procedure in order to speak at upcoming Board of Ed meetings. The rest was via email on 9/29. Alessandro Tamillo, discomfort in schools. Gina Weinberg, agenda procedure. Barbara Curry, CDC crisis. Barbara Curry, minutes for covert relief. Barbara Curry, Board of Ed minutes, 6/22/21. Barbara Curry, minutes for covert relief, grant application. Barbara Curry, capital fund budget. Gina Weinberg on 10/7/2021. Lawsuit added to the agenda. Tamika Walker, football injury, that was on 10/8. And then Kenneth Corwin has, thank you, on 10/19.
Thank you, Ms. Santos. The superintendent's report?
Thank you, Ms. Kowalski. And I'm going to do my report at the podium, so we have a few presentations. Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Ms. Kowalski. The first part of my report is always about the most important people that we have in school, and that's our students. They are amazing, and I'm so proud of them. I cannot stop saying how proud I am of them. Every year, students nationwide take the PSAT test. Of the 1.5 million entrants, approximately 34,000 receive letters of commendation in recognition of their outstanding academic promise. In late September, we were notified that Oyster Bay High School had 3 commended students. They are Kevin Bigiani, Michaela Lester, and Bridget Zaharnik. This award speaks volume about the students' outstanding commitment to intellectual growth. A commended scholar designation places them among the top students in the nation. And this is yet another reason for us to cheer about the amazing work that our students are doing, that the staff is doing, the administrators are doing, and obviously the parents supporting all the work that they do. This week, we had our first regatta. The Waterfront Center, Stony Brook School, and Oak Cliff Sailing Center joined us in the race. The teamwork communication was phenomenal. I spoke to the coach. Our students worked together and worked very hard. And again, I really want to take this opportunity to thank the entire Board of Education for supporting our ideas and supporting my entire team, my entire administrative staff, for believing in the fact that Oyster Bay should have a sailing team. So thank you, and great job on the students. The week of October 18th to the 24th is National School Board Recognition Week. And this week recognized school board members for their commitment to our school and community. Recognizing board service should be a year-round endeavor, but designating one week is an opportunity to promote awareness and understanding of the important work board members do to support our students. Together with the board, we have been collaborating on many initiatives, but mostly we are working together to making our vision of empowering all students to achieve excellence a reality. Set the direction of the school district to achieve the highest student performance. Develop a budget and present it to the community and align district resource to improve achievement. Develop a comprehensive and fiscally responsible capital improvement plan for our district. And the most important thing is, I think this board should be recognized for creating an environment that is safe for students. This is one of the few boards that I know that brought the students back in school and recognized the fact that there is no replacement for in-school learning, that distance learning was not working and was not producing the results that everybody thought it was producing. And the board went out there, opened the doors, put the safety in place, and the students, because the great students that we have, comply with those safety and comply with all those regulations and came to school when other people were still at home learning from a computer. I just want to say thank you for doing that. It takes a strong school to build a strong community, and this board is devoting many hours to ensure that we can provide success to our East Norwich community family. So on behalf of the entire community and staff, we just want to say thank you for all that you do and all the time that you take out of your own life, out of your own family, to provide the best opportunities for our students. And with that, I know that I have Ms. Camo that has some gift for the board. So Ms. Camo, maybe you want to bring it up. I'm going to help you.
Thank you. I would like mine from Amelia, please. Amelia, I'd like one from you, please.
Thank you very much. That's a great idea.
I can get used to this, Amelia.
That's a great idea. Love supporting them.
Thank you so much.
Amelia,
That's very thoughtful.
take it easy on the microphone here. Come on.
Yeah, Todd?
Todd Cronin.
Yeah.
So skinny, you almost didn't see him. Is this thing ticking?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Jen.
And we're not done. At this point, I would like to invite to the podium Legislator Lafazan for a few words to the board.
Good evening, everyone. A number of familiar faces, but for those of you who I'm seeing for the first time, my name is Josh Lafazan, and I have the distinct privilege of serving as Nassau County Legislator representing District 18. Sorry, I'm a little underdressed, coming straight from the campaign trail, but tonight is really important because we get to recognize the individuals who make this district the great place that it is. And in driving over here and thinking about the remarks I wanted to share, the number that stood out in my mind was the number 51 million. And the significance of that number is that 51 million children in the United States attend public schools. You think about the sheer volume of educating 51 million kids, and for those 51 million, their daily experiences, their trials and their tribulations, their struggles and joys, and the thousands that go to Oyster Bay are just the luckiest out of those 51 million because they want for nothing. And it's large in part because of the dedication of the individuals on this dais. And I've worked with this school district for 4 years. You continually make sure that your students have everything they need to excel within these walls and beyond. you have a commitment to social and emotional learning and mental health of your students, from athletics to the arts and sciences and more. The kids here are so lucky, and it's because you continue to make the tough choices to provide for them. So as legislator for the 18th District, I'm proud to recognize and honor and congratulate you. It's my honor to work with all of you, and I hope to do so in the future. So I'll recognize you one by one. President Lori Kowalski. Vice President Nancy Castro-Giovanni. We have Board Member Todd Cronin. Board Member Marianne Santos. Board Member Michael Schindler. And Board Member Nora Windhausen.
Thank you so much, Josh. Oyster Bay High School, Dr. Fahy was the recipient of the National Council Teacher of English, Paul and Kate Farmer English Journal Writing Award. Did I say that right? That was a long one. Which is given annually to two authors of articles written by teachers and published in the English Journal, which is a national journal. NCTE, which is the National Council of Teachers of English, recognized Dr. Fahy for her article, Cosmopolitan Conversation in a Multicultural and Multilingual Classroom, which she wrote based on a unit she taught in English 10 in 2019. Dr. Fahy has also published other articles in English journals, including I Got This, Visual Methods as a Restorative Practice, an article about the impact of multimodal literacy on student engagement, and Can We Do This? Co-creating curriculum with a 21st century mindset, an article based on our work with ninth graders creating podcasts about their experience reading Romeo and Juliet. Dr. Fahy has also shared the work, and that's what we are very proud of, Dr. Fahy, that is not only publishing our work, but also including our community as part of our success, and that's a beautiful thing. So Dr. Fahy also shared Senior Kaylee Ochoa's artwork, which was used as the cover for the March 2021 issue of the English Journal, and so we are so proud of that. So I'm very proud to recognize Dr. Fahy, great work in the classroom, outside of the classroom, nationwide, and also our senior, Kelly Ochoa, for the artwork. So please come up, we'd like to give you an award. Okay. At this point, I'd like to invite to the podium Mr. Femino for a student musical performers celebration. Not a celebration, a preview, right? I got excited about the preview.
I like celebration too. I like celebration. Okay. Good evening, Dr. Yanni, Board of Education, District Administration, and the Oyster Bay East Norwich community. On Friday, November 5th, we will have our first live theatrical performance since March 2020, when we closed a week after our high school production of Into the Woods. This year's middle level review is titled A Villain's Tale. The theme of the musical review is looking at the other side of our favorite villains, such as the Queen of Hearts, Cruella de Vil, and Captain Hook, to name a few. Our advisors, Mr. Flood, Ms. Muller, and Ms. Patterson, have been working hard with our aspiring actors and cannot wait to put on this performance for you. Tonight you will hear from two 8th graders, Finn Trotman and Riley Bear. Next week, when we do for our production on November 5th, tickets will be sold at the door for $10, and the performance is at 7 p.m., and I have given all the board members 2 tickets to come that evening. This is a little different that normally we would have general seating, but just to ensure the safety of all of our audience members, it is assigned ticket seating. So without further ado, Finn Trotman and then Riley Bear performing for us.
A dream is a wish your heart makes
first, I just want to also thank the Board of Education for everything you guys have done this year. You know, from having to search for a new superintendent and bringing back all the kids into school and trying to figure out how we were going to do that, to now trying to figure out how we're going to prepare our schools for the 21st century. So I want to thank you all for all your work you've done. Okay, now the approval of the minutes for the workshop meeting 9/14/21, the special meeting 9/18/21, and the business meeting 9/28/21. Do I have a motion? Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now the business and facilities report on the 21st century capital improvements, 6th presentation.
I just, is that too loud? Just want to go back to what Ms. Kowalski was saying. Our main job is to prepare our students for a future that we don't really know what it looks like. We know it's exciting because it's new and a lot of things are changing, but I think that the commitment of the board to look at not just 3 years down the road, but look at 10, 15, 20 years down the road and create a facility that will provide the students with the necessary support is something that is exciting. So we just put together another presentation. You know that we are proposing, we're having a bond referendum on December 7th. And so we just want to share with the community all the information so you are prepared when you get to that day to vote, and you are informed and you can make the right decision. So the first question is usual, the usual one: why the need for a capital project now? And that's the main question. That's something that we always ask. And so I just want to go back to one thing and say that the best way to prepare students for the future is by empowering them in the present. We have to create an environment that will allow them to be successful. So when we ask them to be creative, to think out of the box, to collaborate with each other, that is something that we want to do. We want to empower them every single day. And I came across this quote when we were preparing this presentation, and when you read it, it makes a lot of sense, because we must prepare for a future that we can neither describe nor predict. We don't know what it's going to look like. When we look back at our lives, right, 10 years ago, it was unthinkable of the fact to have somebody on the phone and talk to that person across the world. I talk to my family pretty much every day and on FaceTime, and you see them at a birthday, you see them celebrating events. And that is something that 10 years ago, we were not even, it was not even in our dreams. And so the question is, what can we do today to empower our students so that one day they will be the one who maybe will come up with a new idea, will discover something that will change the world. And we look back at ourselves and say, have we done everything it was in our power to make sure that those students in these walls, they were ready for it? And that's exciting. When you think about it, it's exciting. So think about this. I came across this picture, and I think that this is so interesting because I said, just the color has changed. When you look at this was maybe 40, 50 years ago, maybe when I was in school. That was not me in the picture. But when you look the one on the right, you could see right there that the color has changed, but the structure didn't really change. And so when we prepare our schools for the future, when we prepare our schools for not just next year, not just 2 years from now, when we prepare our school for 20 years from now, do we want that to continue? I'm sure the answer would be no, because we want them to be proud. We want our students to be proud of when they come, but also be proud of the fact that when they go to college and they go to work and they will be successful, they will look back and say, you know what, the school really prepared us for where we are right now. So think about this. The major shift that is going on is in these two pictures. Years ago, when we were in school, and when I was in school, you were in school probably, the teacher was in front of the classroom and we were listening. Now is the other way around. The teacher is the facilitator. The teacher is the inspiration. Sometimes the students, and I remember when I was teaching and, you know, at different level, the college level in school, sometimes the students knew more than I knew. And that's exciting because you learn. And that's about teaching and learning. It doesn't go in one direction, but it goes in both directions. So you see the teacher in the back facilitating, inspiring them, and say, hey, have you thought about this? And so that's when you see that the learning is going on. So teaching and learning is changing. The structure is changing, right? When you look at the instructional materials, it's changing. You know, you look at your students right now, the tremendous work that the board and the previous administration and the current member of this administration did to make sure that every child had a device so they could learn during the most difficult time in American education, in the world education. And so they were ready. They were ready because they were prepared. They were ready because, and I cannot take credit because I just started in this position, but I have to say that it doesn't happen overnight. So the administration, the previous administration, and the board were futuristic in their thinking and say, one day we'll be there. So COVID maybe accelerated all, but the foundation, the work was there that made it possible. So when you look at the structure of the why, you see that the changing in education is that there is more collaboration. There is collaboration, the students working together, and you see some of the slides, and again, those are just pictures, ideas that we get, but the type of classroom, and you look at this one, you see whiteboards all around the classroom, you see open space. I learned quickly that when we remodeled my house years ago, we created this beautiful room with the desk and the shelves and everything, and then my son and my daughter were learning on the couch, some hanging, the phone connected, and I quickly realized that on that desk and the bookshelf and everything, I pretty much wasted money. And by trying to explain my wife, she still doesn't agree, but that's another story. But you see how the students are learning. The environment is different. And so we as a school, what can we do to make sure that we create that environment? So let's look at our facilities. You look around at this beautiful auditorium. I remember visiting in December. Last year is going to be a year. It went so fast. And I looked and I came over here and I said, wow, this is amazing. And then we find out that this school was built in 1929, almost a minus negative 70 on my age when I was born. And it was like an amazing place, and the work that has been done, the wireless, the sound, and everything, because people along the way didn't think about 1 year at a time. They thought about 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, and that's what we need to continue. We have beautiful buildings, well-maintained. I did a little bit of digging. 1929 was the high school. 1962 was Theodore Roosevelt School, and James Vernon was built in 1955. So you could see and think about, when you think about this, when you think about your presentation, think about your own home, right? If you have a house that is built in 1929, first, you're proud of it because it's almost an historical monument, right? And number two, you also want to stay on top of it to maintain in a beautiful condition. And that's what we do over here. So the scope of work, and that's the part that I'm most excited about it, because a lot of work has been done. So I am not presenting with my team from scratch work that needs to be done. I'm continuing on the work that the community committed already to improvement. When you look at this beautiful facility that we have of the orchestra room, and the fact that now we have students enrolled in orchestra at the younger age, and you see the gymnasium that was renovated, those are moments of pride when the students walking in. Saturday we have a Hall of Fame celebration. We have students coming in, athletes. They spent time over here 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and you come in and you see the beautiful work. You see on the number that it was built in 1929, but this is a school that kept up with the work all along, and we must continue to do that to stay on top of the game. So when you look at some of the work, and we have posted this, and we're going to continue to post this on a website. We're going to send a notice home, so you will receive a flyer. I am grateful of many community members. Some of them are here tonight. They allow me to present their organization, because I want everybody to be informed about the exciting work that is coming. So you look at the high school library, the high school, we have innovation lab by the library, changing some of the classrooms, changing into 21st century classroom, changing that environment, and then looking at creating a turf fields in the back. Visiting, when you look at that field, you could see the need. Spending a lot of afternoons looking at the field hockey right now, and it's so exciting. And then you look at the entrance, the main entrance, what became the main entrance. And you realize that we have some work to do there. So this is the current rooms that we have in the library. The one on the left is not even utilized for learning. And that's space that can really benefit the students. So when you look at the location, obviously you see is in the back of the library. The library was renovated in the past. But when we zoom in, you see that that's kind of an idea, some of the design that we have created. At this point, we didn't fully commit, because obviously we want to make sure that the bond referendum is successful. But then some of the ideas, some of the pictures that we've been looking at, this will be something typical, where students will continue to work, collaborate with each other, and almost create an environment where we want students to be there. We want students to be excited and be there and learn, and that's the main message. When you look at the second floor, this is obviously you see 3 classrooms right now, and what we want to create there, we want to create that environment where students collaborate with each other. So there are multiple plans, but one of them is to create obviously a learning studio, a broadcasting studio, where students can really create almost their own morning show. And I've done that in the past. It's exciting because it really gives the students tools that they go outside of the typical classes that they take, the journalism class and all of that, and they apply. And when they go to college, they walk in those classes, in the college level classes, and they feel comfortable, because we created an environment that is similar to what they're going to see. So some of the current classrooms, the way they look now, they look good for 30, 35 years ago. Now, think about 30 years from now. We don't want to keep it this way. So we want to keep it more of this type, where you see that there is learning going on, and there is really the essential skills for somebody that is successful 20 years from now. So you see some of the renderings. And again, I always want to warn people when I see this, is that this is not exactly the way it's going to look like. Our school is going to look better. So somebody's going to take our pictures and put it in when they decide to do a bond. So you look at this one. This is a broadcasting studio. Again, this is a studio that would run by the students will run it, and the teachers will coordinate and work together. And again, be part of their coursework with the credits and everything. So they could be part of their transcript. So when they go to college or when they apply, they have something on their resume. When you look at the turf field, this is the current field. I'll invite any of you to go and see a game, and you could see, you know, the up and downs. I mean, that's a field that it was there for many years, and is time to give students what they deserve. So this is the rendering of the turf field. It would have the football, it will have soccer, it will have field hockey, girls lacrosse, and softball, all in that field. I think the field hockey students would be very excited. I was talking to them yesterday. This is the entrance. What became the main entrance years ago was an entrance to the gym. So the first day that I walked in, I said, this is the entrance, but I didn't say anything because it said gymnasium Amoff. I don't want to be the one that walks into school and start changing things. And then all of a sudden I said, do you know, why is the, and then little by little, we kind of discovered that this should have a little bit different look. So when you look, you see that this is the entrance to the best high school that we have around. So this is a more zoom in. I don't have a rendering for that because we've been working and trying to find the perfect match so that will match with the entire school. You don't want to bring something that is very futuristic and it would be like, you know, something that looks weird. So we're working on that. James Vernon is another school. We're looking at the extension of music wing, renovating some music classrooms. The board committed a few years ago, 2 years ago, I believe, to have an orchestra program that is very successful. Students are enjoying it. But now we need to provide that space. And when you look at some of the pictures, you'll understand what I'm talking about. One of the things that I want to point out, and I don't want to bore you with too many details, the items in red are part of what we call they're coming out of a building condition survey. So it's almost a checkup on the building that is done every 5 years and needs to be submitted to the state. So those items in red, they need to be done. Bond, no bond, those are items that need to be done. So when you have a building that was built 1929, 1955, there are some of the things that need to be brought up to code. And so that's work that needs to be done, and that's something that is done every 5 years. We need to just keep up. So every building you see something in red, and we put a note. But let me show you overall. This is an aerial view of the school, and everything in green and blue. Blue is new. Green is being renovated or proposed to be renovated. So let me zoom into some of them. These are the current areas that are used for music space. So right there, you see one problem. It's like having a lunchroom. Some will go here, some will go here, some will go here. It's not ideal, right? It's like inviting somebody for dinner at the house. You say, okay, you go over there, you go over there, you go over there. It doesn't look that right, right? So you see 3 areas over there. So let me zoom into some of them. Not really what I want to do, but this is what I want to do. So this is area 1. So this is the current music room. So now, obviously, you have a room that was not really designed for that. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to arrange it. Okay, so you see that, you see areas in the back, you see ceiling, one at one level, another one at another level. Those were 2 classrooms. So think about it. That was one classroom on the right, and there was another classroom on the left. Not ideal. Look at this one. These are cages that, you know, they are spread out all over the place. They were good 30 years ago. They're everywhere. They're in the hall, some in the classroom. So some of the instruments are put there, some are put somewhere else. You could see it that this is not for a school like our school, right? So you look at the second area, right? This is a classroom that is converted into a music room. So you see the number of chairs, you see the equipment in the back. I have another picture over here. So you see the instruments in the back all piled up, and the teachers are doing an amazing job keeping it clean, bringing the students together. But again, not ideal, right? Look at the third area. This is another area where they have music lessons. It's a classroom. There was a big classroom. They put a sheetrock wall. They connect it, and now you have, et voila, a classroom that is not ideal. The third area is the most interesting one, because when I go to Vernon in the morning, I enjoy that because I'm on the sidewalk saying hi to the parents and the students coming out, and you hear the beautiful music that comes, but it comes from the cafeteria. So what you have the instruments all put on the side, and by the way, the cafeteria was an original one, built in 1955 or so. So you have all the instruments put on the side at the end, and the students are amazing. You see some of the students even helping the custodians putting the thing away. You can ask your own children. I'm not making this up. So now you see this. And this breaks my heart. You see tables hanging, you see the serving line, and you see the students having an amazing time. All I'm asking, right, I'm putting this picture down, all I'm asking the community to look at this and say, is this the way we want to look 10 years from now, 15 years from now, or even tomorrow with this one? So we have a music wing. This is what we're proposing. And it's going to be a quick renovation of a couple rooms and pretty much an entire area. Again, we're not looking at details. I put some pictures of renderings, but ours is going to look a lot nicer. So this is another area. The Butler building is the building that is all the way at the end. I was told the first week that I came in, I never saw fencing in my life. So and one afternoon I said, let's go to the practice of fencing. And I went to the side of the building. I said, maybe I'm in the wrong place because this is a shed. And then I realized that they were inside. So when you look at that, you see this, and it's divided into 3 sections. That shed that was created, I don't know why Butler, maybe it was another superintendent. Emoff was one superintendent. Butler was somebody else, I don't know. But this thing, when you look at it, is divided in a very creative way. And I have to say, the head custodians at every building, Andy Testa, Wayne Pacella, they do an amazing job. And I'm escaping the name, and Michael Ruspoli over here at the high school. They do an amazing job keeping this place. But when you look at this glorified shed, right, where you have one area that is converted into almost a gym, pseudo gym, another one is converted into storage room, and there are 3 areas. So one of the things that we're proposing is to, I'm going to go back here for a second. We are proposing to open up this entire thing to make one area for the students. Remember, Vernon is a 3 to 6 building. So you have students coming up right out of kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and you also have the 6th graders ready to go to high school. And you could see the difference. So a space like this would certainly add tremendous space and asset to that building that is needed. So those are some of the modification, and obviously the cafeteria that I told you about, that is an antique, and you see that, you know, how well they keep that is amazing, and I'm so proud of my custodial staff, all of them. So these are some renderings, pictures of work of cafeteria. Roosevelt is one of the favorite places to go for me in the morning. The other day I went to a kindergarten classroom and they said, "This is Dr. Yanni," and the students start running out of the classroom. He says, "I don't want a syringe." I said, "No, he's not that kind of doctor." So that was a funny thing. So I went to this school, and every time you go there, you'll see the space. And I'm going to show you different areas because unfortunately, you don't have the luxury of walking around the building. I do, we do. So there are three, just to point some areas of concern, because the question that sometimes I receive, I said, the enrollment is not going up. Why are we creating an extension? Remember, anything in blue is new, proposed, right? So people are saying, why are we creating an extension? What's the need for, right? And so we looked at specific areas, and I almost wanted to give you a tour of that building. So when you look at this one, right, this is area 1 all the way up here, right? Area 1, this is a custodial closet. You see the sink over here. You see the storage over here. This was a custodial closet that was converted into a classroom. And this is what it looks like. That's the sink that I pointed out and made it very nice. That's one of the reading place. You look at this one, this is the stage, right? This is the second area. So the stage where students performed, where parents had the ability, years ago, they used to come to the school, and some of the board members have kids that went to school, and you will see that you have a stage that was in a very creative way, created different spaces, like reading, like AIS math, like occupational therapy, physical therapy, all services that maybe 10, 15 years ago, we were not mandated to provide to the students, but today we have to by law. So there is no other way, you have to, right? So look at this stage. So this is a stage, right? This was one big stage. But look at the creativity of our custodial staff, but the fact that we have a learning space that is not conducive to learning. So this is the first area. So this is a OTPT. So this is one area of the stage. Look at this one. This is the second area of the stage. So there was a partition here, and so one side you have the picture that you saw before, and this is the other side. When you look at this one, this is the other area. So we almost created into 4 parts, right? Now you look at this room. Those are 2 rooms that were created, right? So students can go in there. I mean, there are no windows. We put a window through the door, but you could see that this is not ideal, right? When you look at the library, one of the things that we want to teach our students, and main idea is to, when you look at a successful school like our school, they create a maker space where students go and they just, at the younger age, they start playing with the Lego, and then they go into the robotics, and then they create different things. This is the maker space in the library. So it's one area where the students go and kind of learn. You look at the nurse's office, right? That's a little bit of office. So this is a classroom, part of the classroom. This is the nurse's office. So you could see the difference in space. And that's what the room is. So you have a little bit here, a little bit over here, and the door is over here to the left. So again, not ideal. Right? When you look at this one, this area in green is currently a classroom. And I asked the principal and one of the teachers to sit down just to give you an idea of how big that space is. So this is the principal and obviously one teacher. And you see how much room you have. And again, all I want to do is to share with you the space that we currently have, that we need to provide those services, right? And I also want to tell you how proud I am of my staff. Because when you look at this and you see a closet being converted into a classroom, that if I wouldn't have put people in there, you would not know that that's that small. That's what I'm saying, the great people that we have working in our school with your children. So when you look at the extension, obviously this is the front of the building, right, Main Street. So the extension will come right here, the proposed extension. So that's the area. So this closet, this classroom closet that was here is going to be converted into a hallway, and then that goes into the room. And, obviously you have classrooms, and you have offices, and obviously it's 2 floor. And then some pictures of makerspace ideas. But again, our makerspace is going to be a lot better than what you see. So again, classroom space, ideas of a classroom, movable furniture, walls that students can work together and teachers can cooperate together. Sometimes you could see even the furniture, the movable furniture, so sometimes they can turn into a circle, a triangle, and have different students working in groups. At the administration building, we don't have any fancy thing, just enhance the security feature. Remember, anything is red, it must be done. Repair fuel tank, high level. We still got to go in with the stick to measure how much oil we have, so sometimes we run out of oil. So we always bring a jacket. And so nothing fancy there, which is important, I think, for the community to know. So trying to find that balance, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find the balance between what's essential, some security measure. I mean, I didn't mention in one of the other presentations the fact that all the playground and basketball court, they're going to be moved in the back, which right now is a safety issue. It's right on 106. That's what the extension is going to be. And obviously, guidelines and mandates that we have to follow. And then when I look at the 21st century building development, we really look at student engagement and the atmosphere that we can provide for them. So just important facts to take with you, and hopefully, I always volunteer myself. You see me at events, please come talk to me, approach me, call me, email me. Some important facts that I want you to take with you. The main objective is to enhance our elementary school to be ready for the 21st century learning. At Roosevelt, the learning space is not sustainable for students. We need to upgrade. Inappropriate, and I mean it in every sense of the word, inappropriate spaces are used for learning, and that's not acceptable. Non-classroom spaces are used to adhere to state required mandates. It's not that we want to, we have to, because the children deserve to learn with the best support. When you look at this is an opportunity to address the lack of space and infrastructure. So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity that comes once in a while. And this is the time that that opportunity is coming our way. Education has changed, and we need to develop that. And I kind of spoke to you about, we want to be proactive about some aging infrastructure. You understand that a 1929 building needs to be maintained and upgraded. When you look at all the project, one of the questions that I've been asked in the past is, why can't you do that with the budget? Because I have a 2% tax cap over my head. My job, and I think the job of the board would be a lot easier if we didn't have a 2% tax cap. You have a project, you put it out there and you go. You can't. We got to open the door for our kids. We got to deal with everything and stay within that 2%. So if you are asked about the question, why cannot be done in the budget? Because in order to have a project that is worth about $30 million, you would need 5 to 10 years to make sure that nothing happens, put enough money on the side so you can do it. It's not possible. Compliance and safety projects are based on building condition survey, so those items in red that I talked to you about. The one thing that we have is, the question is, why we need to do it now and not later. And I kind of went over this a few times, but the debt service is falling off. And that is something that I see as an opportunity for our district. When you look at the important thing is to inform the community that this only comes once in a while. So there is some debt service, think about your own home. A mortgage that was put in place, now is coming off. That's the opportunity. So somebody, and I understand that, I mean it, somebody could turn around and say, hey, Mr. Superintendent, but if my mortgage is coming to an end, why don't I just take a break and just let my tax go down and just let it be and then look at tomorrow? My job as your educational leader, working for the board and working for the community, for the student, is not to look at 1 year in front of me. Anybody can do that. My job is to make sure that I recommend to the board and to the community what this community should look like 5 years, 10 years from now. Anybody can look at the book this year and say, let's look at tomorrow. My job is not that. My job is to look 10 years ahead of my time. Because 10 years ahead of my time, I want this community to look back and say, you know what? This man did his work, recommended what was right for the community and what was right for the students. And that's my job. So if you think about 1 year ahead of you, you're 100% right. You're going to save the money. But when you think about the fact that 5 years from now, you have to do the work that I'm presenting you, the community will be in a tough, tough situation. Nothing is impossible. I learned never to say never. When my daughter was in 6th grade and I said, I never get a phone. By 7th grade, she had 2 phones, almost 2 phones. So I learned never to say never. But I'll tell you, 5 years from now, if you want to do work in this school and you miss this opportunity, the community would have to dig deep into the pocket. And I want to be the one saying, I told you, this is on the books. This is what's the reality. When you look at interest rate right now are low, that's a fact. When you look at interest rate, they are at the lowest point. We met with my deputy superintendent, Maureen Raynor. We spent a lot of time with the financial advisor, and we plan a lot of games, We both mathematicians, taught mathematics. I should not say mathematician, but taught mathematics, so we can play the game. What if the interest rate goes to 5%, 6%? What's going to happen? Because we're planning this in advance, we have the flexibility of adjusting to make sure that our debt service stay where it needs to stay in order not to have a difference in the calculation of the levy. So when you look at the numbers, you see that in 23-24 it's coming down to 522, but the number that we're aiming for is at $2.2 million. That's the payment. Having that payment and continue with that payment, it will not change anything with respect to the debt service. So some people could say, you're misleading us because you're telling us that the tax don't go up. No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that your tax will continue to go up because that's the life that we live in. So 2%, 2.5%, the way we're going, they're going. But when it comes to debt service, when it comes to that mortgage payment, that's where there is no change. There is a change that you're committing yourself to another 10 years, 12 years of payment. Yes, but it's an investment. It's an investment that you do so 5 years from now, you're not jumping from a 2% to a 5%, 6% in your tax. Payment is coming off. Obviously, 1.7 is coming off. And with the $30 million that we are proposing, it's pretty much at the same level in terms of debt service. And I'm not reading line by line. I will have all this is posted on the website. And if you have any question, please call me anytime. So you see the payment is dropping off. So you see that this is the payment right now. It goes down a little bit to 0.5. That's the 522. And that's the payment that we are making for the music wing that was just created. So that's going to come to an end in 27, 28, right? So think about this. When we met with the advisor this morning, I said, what if it goes up? What if the interest rate goes up, instead of 1.24, goes up to 3, 4, 5%? He said, look, guys, the fact that you are at the year 21, 22, and you are projecting this much in advance, you have tremendous flexibility in making sure that your payment stays what it needs to be. And obviously, when you look at flexibility, it's like when you go leasing a car. You say, I want to spend $300 a month, right? And they say, okay, do you want 10,000 miles? Do you want a 12,000 miles? Do you want a 36-month payment? Do you want a 24-month payment? That's the same thing. We are adjusting it so we can stay at the one that we have. Interest law, you see that it's been going down. So right now it's currently at 1.24. So I say, how realistic is for that number to go up to 5%? He said, I've never seen 5% in the last maybe 10 years. And again, I am looking at worst case scenario in terms of payment. This is an interesting slide that I leave it up for you to see where the budget increase has been, and you could see that it's fluctuating around the 2% average or so, right? This is on there. So the approximate cost for the building, because at the end of the day, you say 30 million, wow, 30 million, what are you, crazy? What are you? Look at every building and look at the amount of money that we have in every building, and you see, you would have an appreciation for the fact that we are spreading out, and some work is needed more at some schools than others, and we are being fiscally responsible. Instructional, so we always look at two areas. We look at the infrastructure, bricks and walls, and we look at the instructional piece. And we want to make sure that they're balanced, because at the end of the day, it comes to students learning, right? The timeline, I think I cannot thank enough the board. I've been talking to them since almost the minute I arrived. They've been very supportive of the ideas we've been presenting to the community. But the one thing that we have over here that is kind of for us is that the December vote has to happen in December, because if it doesn't happen in December, we miss the timeline to get the new, I'm going to use a simple term, the new mortgage in place so the tax will not go down. If you have this work done later, or if the vote done later, so some people could say, you know what, I want to think about it a little bit more, right? Then the work will not start in July of 2022 when we're proposing the turf field installation. The work will start later because you need more time for the approval. At that point, once you miss that boat, the payment will not go in time for the new budget to kick in 23, 24, and then the tax will just drop. And then obviously if you want to bring work up, the tax will go up again. So in terms of the timeline, we started talking in February. We are right here, right now. We have been presenting, and this is some of the presentations that we have done. We have done 8 presentations. We send notification home. Hopefully you follow us on social media. We're trying as much as we can to give every tool, every information to the community so they can make a very informed decision. We have another presentation on the 23rd, and on December 7th, we hope that everybody will come out and vote. The vote will be in the same place that we had last time, in the beautiful chorus room. It's going to be from 7 in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. Hopefully the community will come. This was an interesting slide because what we did a little bit of study in terms of the 30 million and say, what other school did 30 million? Is 30 million a lot? Is not a lot? Is that done before? And so when you look at this slide, this is bonds that were capital work that it was passed in millions. You see the name of the district. This is all public information. So you see the name of the district and when the when the referendum was done, right? So you see, for example, Oyster Bay, the proposed one. You see Baldwin 2020, 158 million, 14 million Belmore, and so on. So then what we said, well, if this bond was done in 2015, Kings Park, 41 million, it's not really a real number because 41 million 2017 with the inflation and everything could be different. So we created a different graph, and this graph was taking the money, the actual value at that point, calculate with the inflation, and that's the website that we used on the side. Calculating the CPI and calculating, having a simple calculation, and we looked at the real value of that amount. And you see that what we are, except for this one, we are pretty much in line with what has been passed in the past. So the message here is not unusual for this kind of work. And it makes sense because if you have $30 million worth of work, there is no way, and this is, again, it's something that you see, I should not say there is no way. It's very difficult to do it within your own budget. So the other slide that we looked at the percentage of the school budget on a $30 million. So you see for us, a $30 million on a $60 million budget is about 50%. So you see all the other districts, they're pretty much the same around, except for this one in 2017. And again, this is based on information that we had available on the site. Then we looked at another, we sorted out, filtered the data a little bit, and we look at schools. They are pretty much similar in size of our school. So this is the bonds passed in millions with current value, okay? So you see 30 million us, 29 Rockaway and Malvern and all of that. So you see kind of a similar number. When you look at the percentage of budget, again, you see that that number, it fluctuates around the 50% or more. So in summary, we will continue to monitor any change in interest rates and make any necessary adjustments. Our mission is clear, is to provide 21st century learning to all the students, and we will remain fiscally responsible and accountable. This is not easy to propose something like this at this time. We understand that. But again, I ask the community to look at what we have, to look at the amazing work that we're doing, and don't think about next year. Think 5, 10 years down the road. Think about your children entering school right now and being in high school. You want them to have the best. Empowering all students to achieve excellence is our vision, and creating the learning spaces that students deserve is it's something that we cannot miss on this one-time opportunity. I thank you for your support, and I hope that you will, if you have any questions, you will call me, email me, or even stop me up by the side of on the side of the field in the morning every time you see me. Thank you. I don't know if the board has any question at this time.
No, thank you, Dr. Yanni. Does anyone have any questions? No. Thank you very much. Okay, now we move to the section where the opportunity for the public to be heard on agenda items. In accordance with the open meetings law, school board meetings where school district business will be discussed are open to the public. The Oyster Bay East Norwich Board of Education welcomes public comment at its meeting. The Board of Education will respond to comments and/or inquiries in the appropriate manner. This portion of the meeting is designed exclusively for agenda items. A sign-in book is provided for those residents wishing to address the board. In order to be recognized, you must be signed in. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. The board president will call you to the microphone in the order in which you have signed in. Public discussion is prohibited regarding matters relating to an individual's reputation, privacy, or right of due process, which in some way could be violated. A second commentary period is provided for non-agenda items prior to adjournment. We thank you for your participation and cooperation. That's non-agenda? Okay, the first one is Ms. Anne Marie Longo. Hi, how are you?
How are you? I just have a couple questions about 21st century. So you said that you were going to inform the community. I mean, it's come as a surprise to a lot of people that, because people don't come, unfortunately, they still don't come. Will you be putting it on the marquee so community can be informed and to make a decision, the right decision? Number one. How much, do you want me to ask all the questions
Should
first?
I answer? Should
No,
I
let
answer
me
one
ask
at a
my
time
question.
or all of them?
No, I'm going to run out of time. You're going to stop the
Yeah,
clock?
let her ask everything and then.
Okay. How much is in the Technology and Security Fund and the Capital Fund? And how much was funded this year? And then I see that you're changing the front of the school to be the gym. So the gym now is a dedication and memorial of Dr. Imhoff, which is very special to the town. Are you now, when you reconfigure that, are you undedicating that gym and the entrance to Dr. Imhoff and putting Oyster Bay High School there, or are you going to still leave that? And then in your last slide, you mentioned that the bond is at 1.5%, and that's the rate that you feel you should get. What does happen if the bond changes? Our current bonds, based on our 2020 school year, is at 2 to 3%, 2 to 5%, and 5%. So I know that you stated in the last thing that you would not hurt the community, but what is a number on $30 million for 15 years if we go to 3% or 5%? And how does that affect it? And in addition, the 522 goes till 2027. So our taxes would go up initially. And then the last thing I have as a question is, you stated that you're going to start the work in August of 2022. So I was on the board for 12 years, and it was nearly impossible to get approval through the state in under a year and a half. So if you get an approval in December, how does the timeline look that we can start work within 6 months? Because it's my understanding that everything has to be approved by the state. And how do you take funds out and borrow without getting state approval? And is that even possible? So aren't you already in 2023? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Longo.
Ms. Longo, I'll try to go back, so if you want to jot down all the questions that you had. So I'm going to start, so if I forget something, just remind me which one. So the first question that you had, it was about the security, the marquees outside, and so the answer to that question is yes, we'll put it on the marquee. We also have a special newsletter that was created in the past. I'm sure when you were in the board, similar, that is going to go to all the homes. It's going to be a paper copy, so make sure that everybody gets that. And we're going to continue also work on the social media to make sure that that the community is informed that there is a bond coming, and in addition to all the meetings that I'm having with local groups. I will put it on the marquee, taking notes on it, so that will be on right away tomorrow. In terms of the question that you had asked about the security, the funding, I don't have that information available right now, but I will make sure that I will provide that to you. My staff will compile the information, and I'll call you or I'll email you. In terms of the undedication of the entrance. I'm sorry? Yeah. Okay. So right now, the numbers, the external auditor report that we have on the website is based on last year's audit. as soon as the board will meet with the external auditor on November 19th, and at that point, we will post that information to the website, just like we had done in the past.
Sure.
Is it November, I'm sorry, Ms. Kowalski, the meeting is November 9th? Okay. Yes, it will be a public meeting on November 9th. You want to speak on the?
Our external auditor from R.S. Abrams will be here on November 9th to present to the committee all the information. To the public as well. Public is welcome to attend that meeting. Correct.
So at that, so in terms of those funds, you'll be able to see it. In terms of the what you stated as undedication, it is not the intention of the board nor my intention to undedicate to the I believe it was a superintendent of schools, Imhoff, Dr. Imhoff. What I'm recommending to the board is that the sign that is in front of the current main entrance that we call it, it says entrance to the gymnasium. So one of the proposal is to make sure that the gymnasium, the sign, Imhoff Gymnasium, will be posted would be on the actual gymnasium on the side, and the entrance, right, to the high school, it says high school, Oyster Bay High School. So when you look right now, right, at the front of the building, it says entrance to the gymnasium, but that's not actually the entrance to the gymnasium. It is the entrance to the main office, to the library, to everything else. So one of the proposal is to have the letters on the side, so facing the building to the left, on top, with the big sign, Imhoff Gymnasium, and then continue to have the sign that is in front of the stairs going up to the gymnasium. That's the proposal. So there is no, I never said there would be an undedication to the Dr. Imhoff. The other question that you asked was about the bond and what that will happen if the bond will pass. So one of some of the presentations that we had in the past, we really looked into, sort of did a simple analysis of the tax levy and the impact that the tax levy, the impact that the change in debt service would have on the tax levy. And so we did a calculation assuming, right, that the CPI and the growth factor will remain the same. Again, is an assumption. With that, we realized that if you don't replace the debt service with anything and you let it drop from a 2.2 approximately to a 522,000, it will be an initial levy, right? There would be at a negative number of 1.5. I had in one of my slides. So the following year, right, once that number is part of the calculation, because you add and then you subtract when you do the 8-step calculation to calculate the allowable tax levy, you will see that the levy, assuming everything stays the same, the levy will go up to a 1.5. So you could see that there would be a fluctuation in the levy. The community will realize a negative levy, obviously, because that's part of the debt service coming off, and then you see an increase. One of the things that I was saying in the presentation is that at the end of the day, when you eventually will do some of the necessary required work that must happen, you, the community, will probably deal with an increase that is just a natural increase in terms of cost, because then at that point you would have expense in terms of labor, material, and everything else. So that's pretty much on the calculation of the levy. In terms of the question about the percentage that we have right now on bonds, and I'm just going to bring back, if I can, bring back one slide. Brian, it was probably easier if I would have started from the back. Getting there. There you go. Okay. So when you look at this slide, in terms of the question about the 5.2 and the 1.7, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your question was, if I go out there and bond $30 million, then it will cost, the cost would be higher than 2.2 million. Am I correct on that? Okay. So when you look at the slide that has a 22-23, it's the last blue bar graph, 22-23, $2.2 million. That's when it's coming off, right? When you have, and I'm sure you're aware of this, when you have a bond of this magnitude, in order to get work done, in order to get the approval, it requires several months, and I will explain to you why I have an aggressive timeline and why that's the reason. But when you look at this 1.7 and 0.5, which is 23-24, the reason I would be able to afford that same cost, that same debt service of 2.2 is because in the first 2, potentially 3 years, I will not go out for a bond, but I will go out for bands. And for the community listening, the bands are bond anticipated notes. The bands are a short-term bond, if you want to look at it that way, that have an interest rate that currently, right now, is between a 0.25% and 0.35%. So what I will be able to do is go for a band, right? Go for bands for the first 2-3 years, $5 million, for example, potentially 6, and then when the time for a bond will come, then instead of bonding $30 million, 29 obviously, I will bond 25 of 2024. One question that I asked some of the financial advisor, and I certainly appreciate the phone conversation that we had. One of the questions that I asked is, what if in 27, 28, when everything comes off, the interest rate goes to 5% or 6%? So the financial advisor was kind enough to kind of share with me that on a 15-year bond, right, if I go right now and I'm like projecting an escalation on the fee that he didn't expect will happen, or even that would be possible on a, let's say, $25 million bond on a 16-year term at a 5% would be approximately $2.3 million. If I look at an escalation of 4%, So right now, we're really looking at 2.5%, right? The, on a 15-year bond, it was estimating about a $2.2 million, which is in range. But one of the main point that I was very happy to hear is that when you look at a bands for several years and then a bond, it really gives the district the flexibility of looking at the rate at that time when we go for a bond and really adjust and make sure that we are within that point, that $2.2 million debt service line that is required for us to maintain a steady level. In terms of your question about the timing, I agree with you, and I know that is an aggressive time, but I want to reassure you that I'm very fortunate to have experience with this type of bond. And the reason I have it in my presentation, and I'll be more than happy to email it to you, or it's on the last one of the last presentation that I had, I believe in September or end of August. I divided this capital work in 3 phases, and the first phase has the main item, I call it item, but as the turf field. The turf field does not have mechanical, electrical, plumbing, any of that work. So the approval time for that kind of work is a lot shorter than extending a building or doing renovation. In order for us to get building aid, which is still little, it's about 10%, correct? So in order for us to have a building aid and to go for all of that, one thing that we did, we also added into that phase, and I called it phase 1, is to add some internal work. Because if I would put just a turf field without any work internally, we would not get approval. So by doing this, right, by putting the turf field, which the cost of a turf field is approximately right now, I want to say around $2.5 million. By putting all that in place would allow the district to go for bans, right, in the late August, beginning September, don't quote me on that, but around that time. And we will have the debt service required to go in the preparation for the 23-24 budget. And one question that I asked the advisor, the financial advisor, is that when you look at the bands, you can schedule your payment of bands in many different ways. One of them is by looking at the principal, the interest. So we have that flexibility to put that payment in a way that it will be part of our calculation. And again, going back to this slide, the idea is to make sure that in 23-24, I am approximately at $2.2 million, so there will be no change. So we're gonna go out for a band, and the payment of that debt service is gonna be around the 1.7, because we want to make sure that with the 522 that we have in the books, that we have that we would be at 2.2. And again, I'm certainly not a financial advisor, but one of the things that I'm discovering, obviously through the conversation that we had with the financial advisor, is that if the target is to hit a $2.2 million payment with a ban on 1.7, there are many ways to schedule, but I think it is important for the community to understand that a 0.25% right now is extremely low based on what I hear. I hope I answer your questions.
So Dr. Yanni, in summary, when we go for the ban, it's going to be a short-term financing at a very low interest rate. If you look currently right now at our shorter-term bonds that are out there, they're yielding under 1%. So a ban yields about 25 to 35 basis points, right? So most of the debt service will be to pay down the principal. So basically what you're saying is by the time you're done with a 2 or 3 year ban and you go out for your bond, you could be at a much lower principal amount. So even if rates were to go up, you're not financing on a $30 million bond because now you've paid down probably at least 4 to 4.5 million, or let's say 4 million on the debt before you've even gone out with the bond. So that gives you a lot of wiggle room if rates do climb up a bit in the next couple of years. But right now, the yield on our most longest term bond is only at 1.85%. So I think that based on that analysis, we have plenty of room to keep the debt service so that the debt service on the levy wouldn't increase.
We are not borrowing money until the work is approved and the work will start. And having experience with this kind of work, the voter on December 7th will just approve the district to spend up to that amount. So the initial vote, and Ms. Sadowski, correct me if I'm wrong, is just allowing the district to spend up to that amount. In, well, let's say worst case scenario, the district turn around and say, we're not spending anything, and we don't have to do anything. Correct.
Spend more than the 30.
So,
Okay. Let's move on to personnel actions. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Oyster Bay East Norwich Central School District hereby approves the following professional personnel and civil services personnel resolutions as listed, and that goes on to page, no page number on it. Four. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Business actions, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Oyster Bay East Norwich Central School District hereby approves the following business resolution as listed. Goes right up to page 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Special services, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Oyster Bay East Norwich Central School District hereby approves the following special services resolution as listed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Oyster Bay East Norwich Central School District hereby approves the following new business resolution as listed. Do I have a motion? Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, first I have to have a motion to table policy 5910.
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? Motion carries. And now the motion for the new business. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Friday packet. Anybody want to talk about the Friday packet? Yeah. Any Friday packet? No? Okay, now we move on to the opportunity for the public be heard on non-agenda items. Ms. Sheila Lieber, would you like to come up? Sure.
That clock is terrifying. Okay. I'm going to read very fast
No
because I'm not a good extemporaneous speaker. Are we starting? Okay. So I'm Sheila Lieber, and my husband and I live in Oyster Bay. We no longer have a child enrolled in the district, but our older son, Josh, graduated in 2010. Building on the great education he received here, he's gone on to complete his PhD in theoretical math. And he's now employed doing postdoctoral research. So thank you, Oyster Bay, and that's my proud mama moment, too. Anyway, I don't normally speak in public, but after listening to the school board meetings of our district on YouTube, it was clear to me that only one opinion has been expressed at the board meetings concerning COVID precautions. And I think it's important to give voice to a very different view and one that supports what the district is doing and what the board is doing. Prior commenters said that mask wearing should be an individual choice, arguing that requiring it is unconstitutional and unscientific and infringes on individual rights. I couldn't disagree more. No courts have found New York's requirements to be unconstitutional, and there are many examples in recent history of school boards, state governments, even the federal government, requiring its citizens to comply with certain regulations or laws for the common good. One is required to be vaccinated for certain diseases in order to have the right to attend public school. One is required to wear seatbelts while in a moving car. Both of these policies have been life-saving and cost-effective. As far as the science goes, the CDC, the National Authority on Disease Control, has determined that COVID-19 is an airborne disease and that masks are an effective and vital way to combat transmission. And finally, it's really problematic to suggest that requiring people to behave in a way that protects the entire community is in any way the same thing as trampling on individual rights. On the contrary, I would argue that those who refuse to wear masks and refuse to get vaccinated are actually riding roughshod over other people's individual rights. COVID-19 has killed more Americans than any other disease in history. Maybe in recognition of this or because of the emergence of new variants, a whopping 66% of Americans polled last month supported requiring face masks be worn by students, teachers, and staffs in school. One last thing, it's undeniable that remote learning, social isolation, and mask wearing has been incredibly hard on teachers, students, and parents alike. But sometimes unforeseen circumstances, such as this deadly global pandemic, require us to figure out how to save lives and promote the well-being of the entire community. This is just such a time. Concretely, and for right now, our schools need to continue requiring mask wearing and other precautions. And frankly, if it were up to me, I would even recommend requiring vaccines as well. Thank you all for your leadership and your service to our schools.
And thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.